Yo, 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 yo.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
How's your week?
It was good, finished school and living my best life.
Lord Jesus Christ. I saw you went to the beach. You got sandy booty?
Yeah, a little bit. Got some flesh-eating Staphylococcus aureus bacteria.
Low-key.
But that's fine. I caught 4 sand dollars and a scallop. It's all worth it.
Yeah, I stayed home, watched lots of Netflix. Stranger Things, loved it. I'm not going to give you spoilers, but watch it.
We'll give the spoilers when you guys are ready.
Yeah, catch up. So on this episode of RNB, we are on episode 9. And we're going to start addressing some stereotypes that we hear on a daily basis. And if these bullets touch your soul, then let it touch you.
Literally.
But it's so funny because I'm like, there's so many stereotypes on like your everyday life. Like, black people love chicken. Black people like watermelon, and all this stuff like that. I think it's like, that is friendly and like jokey and ha ha ha. But then like the shit that I don't like, that's a pet peeve of mine, and I've like learned to like kind of curb it, is like when I talk, I pronounce words properly and I say full sentences. So the whole "you talk white." Ooh.
Yeah.
There's just so many issues with that statement. That statement. It's just, I get it. I get that some people are just like joking around and ha ha ha. But that statement comes from such a strong place of like ignorance that it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So
because they expect all black people to just be ghetto and speak with broken English and not know how to formulate sentences and have opinions and stuff. So it's like, it's insulting even if they are joking about it, because it's basically like, I expected you to be a fucking idiot and you're not. Oh my god, wow.
Yeah, and it's like when you say that, you're saying, oh, you speak like well, you speak educated, so that means that you can't speak black. And when you put that out there, it's saying that all black people aren't educated and can't speak well, because just because I'm doing something right, then that means that I'm speaking white. That I'm just like,
yeah. And the thing with it, speaking white, there are tons and tons of white people who speak with broken English and who cannot formulate sentences. So I'm like, how come all of a sudden now all white people can speak properly? Like, no, that's not true. It's not about what race you are. It's about your level of education and how much you actually give a shit. Because some people are educated and don't speak properly because they just don't care.
I mean, shit, I don't speak properly half the time. So I'm like, the fact that people are like...
It's because you're not... It's because, like, your accent, I swear. You know?
What accent? I don't feel like I have an accent.
You speak... I don't want to say normal, but do you know how sometimes, like, black people can have that, like, country southern? I think that's maybe what they're expecting, and then you don't have that.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just so weird. I tell people all the time, like, when you meet me, please just drop all the stereotypes, because I don't fit in any of them. And I feel like that's what a stereotype is. It's a constraint to, like, okay, you're from this culture, you're from this background, you need to be like this. And then once you don't fit into it, it's like, okay, well, you don't fit in because black people act this way. And even some black people are like, oh yeah, you're weird, you don't fit in. And it's like, okay, well, if I don't fit in my own culture, and the other people are like, oh yeah, well, you don't fit, like, where do you fit in? Yeah.
I think that's like how a lot of mixed people feel. Like people who are half white, half black. You're not black enough to hang out with the black people, but then you're also not white enough to hang out with the white people. So you're just stuck in this sort of limbo, and then no one accepts the way that you act. So if you're acting black, quote unquote, then it's like, oh wow, you must really like feed into that shit. Or then when you're acting white, it's like, wow, you don't like your black side, you like your black heritage, so it's like you really just can't do right.
You really just can't win. I'm like, I don't give, like, I get it. It's so funny because everybody in the world is like, I don't see color. Fucking give somebody 2 seconds to like speak their mind and they're gonna say something about your color. It's just, the shitty part about it is that I get it, because like, if you don't know somebody and you guys have nothing connecting you, what you're going to do is you're going to look at them, and if they're different than you in terms of color, race, where they're from, how much money they have, you're going to point out those differences.
Exactly. It's like a conversation starter.
Yeah, for sure. But I just wish that, like I said, it's just weird that because you aren't like everyone else, then you just don't fit in.
Yeah. And so, yeah, in this episode, we want to talk about when stereotypes become prejudice.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, like, it's a fine line. It's a fine line that it's gonna be like hard to talk about, because obviously I walk that line, and there's lots of people that like make comments and shit like that.
There's lots of people who walk that line, though. I think if you're, I don't even think it's about walking the line. I think it's about just people in general. everyone has a stereotype that people are going to place on them. I think some races just have more prejudice taken upon them with those stereotypes. Like, for example, black people. So black people are seen to be like super uneducated, just aggressive people, and obviously whether it's just real life or movies, that's depicted everywhere, and it's really hard to get away from that when you're not like that at all. And you kind of, I understand that you have to, not that you should, but that you do have to kind of change people's minds when they meet you, because they expect you to be like some like, oh, big black guy who's gonna like fight me, like what?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, when you really think about it and you think about like where the root of all of this may have like started, it's like when you watch movies, it can be something as simple as like, oh, it's like the light and the dark. Like, so the light is always looked at and depicted as like, oh, go towards the light and it's great, and like, the light is the good part. It's always the good versus evil. So the dark is always known as the evil. So something as simple as that can be in the back of your psyche and you don't even realize that you acted out. So when people get older and stuff like that, like, it's still the same thing. There's still people who are white and there's still people that are dark. So the fact that dark things are associated with bad, I think has a big
Yeah, I never thought about it in that way. And that's true too, because that goes for animals as well, just like black cats. So black animals are the least adopted overall in all the shelters, whether it's a dog or a cat, black animals go last, and that's so sad.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think people like think of like, oh, where did this like start? I think people just, having this podcast has taught me a lot of like introspection. So when you go to talk about something, you need to know about what you're talking about and the whole entire, like, you have to know all of it. You have to see it. So
from every perspective.
Yeah. So when if you think about it, it's like a glacier. And I feel like most of the time people just look at the tip, and people don't feel the need to look at the rest of the glacier because they're like, oh, well, I've seen the tip, so I already know how the rest of it's going to look. But the tip of a glacier can be really, really small, and then under it can be massive.
And it always is. Yeah. And that's literally what happened in Titanic.
And I don't think people take enough time to like look under it, but like
the deeper meaning, the deeper cause of things.
Yeah, but doing this podcast has taught me that like, okay, you have a stance on something and you might have an opinion on something, but in order for you to support that opinion and understand your stance, you have to look at the whole entire situation. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how I was able to do like the whole light versus dark. That's always been a thing. And then like, when it comes down to like black people being arrested more and black people being in jails more, I just think it's the same thing. Like, we have to get away from that whole
prejudice.
Yeah, we have to get away from that whole like dark is bad and like and
I think it goes way deeper than that. I understand what you're saying that might like tap into it, but I mean it's just racism at the core of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm like, if it is racism, yes, but I mean like, and just in general, if that's just the way things are looked at, like that. Darker things or darker items are just looked at as less, or it doesn't help. It doesn't help the situation.
I guess seeing something from a simple point of view like that can help you to address like your prejudice against darker colored people.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so of course you've had that experience, but then like growing up, I was born in Jamaica, but I'm half Chinese and I look primarily Asian, and so. Even just moving to America, I don't speak Chinese, I was not raised Chinese, anything like that, but I look Chinese. So during school, everyone would expect me to be like the smartest person out of everyone, and like when we're in math class, everyone would be like, oh, Brittany must know, she's Chinese, like, oh, it's so funny, and like, it ended up being a prejudice for me because it turned into people just expecting this out of me and then treating me differently because I'm Asian and because oh, you're not as good as math as you are supposed to be, then oh, you're not Asian enough. And I'm just like, wow. I'm like questioning myself. I'm like, am I stupid? And like this happened at like a very young age, and like it just really makes you like look at yourself and be like looking in the mirror like, why am I Asian even though I wasn't raised Asian? Like, am I supposed to be smarter than I am? And like it does fuck with your head a little bit when it comes to school, because now I feel like even if we're not raised Asian, now it's like, okay, I need to fight to be the smartest person because that's what's expected of me, and then it like fucks your psyche and
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same thing with like, so Beyonce just released The Lion King, The Gift, and she has a song in it called Brown Skin Girl, and people don't understand how important that song is just because just like you said, when you have somebody telling you that you're like dark and you're like crispy and you're burnt and you're ugly and you're this and that, you know, like it's very easy to take that and be like, oh shit, I've heard this so many times, maybe I am that. So like there's so many little black people, guys and girls, who have been told that their whole entire life, and like as a result, there's like the bleaching of the skin, and there's the, oh well, I'm not black, I'm mixed with this, I'm mixed with, like, you know, like, and
yeah,
it's
no one
like
wants to be completely black.
yeah, why? What's wrong with just being black?
Or they glorify having mixed children.
Yeah, for sure. So then, like the fact that Beyonce went out there, because she's black. Don't get me wrong, she's black, but the song was not even meant for people like her. It was meant for people with dark skin. Mm-hmm. So and it wasn't just for black people; it was for anybody with dark skin. Indian people with dark skin, Jamaican people, yeah, brown people in general. Yeah. So then, like, she made that song to like show those people that, hey, you are beautiful. Your skin is beautiful. Like, you should feel comfort in your own skin. And I'm like, it's amazing because not enough people do that. That's not a thing. That's not a message that's given out all the time.
Yeah, it's not broadcasted.
Yeah, for sure.
If anything, everyone's promoting like being light skinned.
Yeah, or being exotic, you know?
Being exotic. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I fucking hate when people label me as exotic. I'm just like, okay, I'm just like some tropical snake in a cage. Like, that's what I feel like when people are like, oh, you're so exotic. I'm like, bitch, I'm brown. Like, get over it. That's all that we need to say. We don't need to talk about me being a little fish in a fish tank. Like,
so if you haven't listened to that song, go listen to it. Brown Skin Girl by Beyonce. It's on The Lion King, The Gift. But the shitty part is that she made that song and had a great message to it, and she released it out to all of us, and the response was like a whole bunch of black people falling in love with it. Yes, amazing. But at the same time, somebody went out and made a song. I don't know who it was because I didn't give the person the time of day to look up their name or whatever. But they made a song and they made it to be like light skinned girls.
No.
And I'm like, just because somebody is like appreciating something and somebody is like cherishing something that doesn't get cherished nearly enough, doesn't mean that you need to come out and be like, oh, me, like, over here.
Yeah. And you know what? That's the same thing as when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, the Blue Lives Matter movement
like somebody has to always come and like,
and it's like, just because we are promoting black people and trying to bring awareness does not lessen you as a cop or you as a white person. That's not the point, and that's what everyone gets like confused about. It's like
everybody gets wrapped up in it.
Exactly. Like, oh, you didn't make it's a song about brown girls. Well, let's talk about light skinned girls. Like, okay, well, that's not the point. We're not trying to lessen your position at all. But we're trying to bring awareness to something that there is not enough awareness about, guys.
The issue is that like people hate feeling left out.
Yes.
So once you like make something and you're like, oh, this is so like, look, like it can be something as simple as, oh, look at my rock. It's so beautiful. It's purple. It's shiny. It's gorgeous. Blah blah blah. At that moment, that person is envious of what? Your rock. So what do? They go out and they get a rock. Oh, well, my rock's better than yours because it's big and it's this and it's that and it's this. And it's the reason why I'm like breaking it down in just like simpler terms, because these are like our complicated things that we're talking about that sometimes people don't understand how to get the concept. And I'm like, just because somebody is standing up for something and they believe in something doesn't mean that you need to counteract what they believe in. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to get a message out and get it pointed out about their topic. Like, just somebody's right to like speak out and like stand up for themselves does not mean that they want somebody else to counteract that right. We don't always have to play devil's advocate. Yeah.
You know, it's not like, okay, Black Lives Matter, but Blue Lives don't matter. Like, that was not the fucking point, you dumbass.
For sure. People are ignorant as fuck. Dumb as fuck.
Ignorant.
Anyway, back to this whole stereotype and like prejudice thing. Do you think... So I think that the main point at when this becomes like dangerous is no longer just like jokes and like ha ha ha, because like I said, on a daily basis I have people do that shit and I get it because I'm a black guy. So like at a certain point it's shitty to say, but you have to be like kind of fluid with it or like okay with it.
You have to take everything very lighthearted.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna be mad. You're gonna be mad all the time. All the goddamn time.
Because people, regardless of how progressive things become, there's always gonna be stereotypes and there's always gonna be prejudice and people are always gonna have ideas about who you are, who you should be, or what they think that you are. And it's like, as long as you're secure with yourself and you know how you feel and what you stand for, then it's like, you really just gotta like take everything with a grain of salt. Like, brush that shit off your shoulders. Just keep it moving.
Yeah, for sure. But like the point where this shit becomes dangerous is like, when we, because I don't know if this is something that happens in every household, but when I was younger, my parents had to like sit me down and they had to tell me like, oh, if you ever get like pulled over by the cops, or if you ever stopped by like law enforcement, you have to like make sure you listen to them. Make sure that you're like cooperative. Don't fight back. Don't be combative. Just do what they want to make sure that you're safe. And I don't think that that's something that happens to everyone, and that's not a conversation that everybody has to have. And I think that's sad. Mm-hmm. That's really, really sad, because at that point, I think that those people who are stopping us and like who are making us feel endangered like that don't understand that that's what it is. And I get it that like they may be afraid, but what are they afraid of? The stereotype. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's why there's so many cases of black people getting pulled over and then somehow getting shot by the police because they're getting their ID out of their pocket and things like that. It's like, I'm complying with you, but because you already have a premeditated idea of what I'm going to be or what I'm going to do to you, you're going to act in a spontaneous way, and that's going to cost someone a life, and it costs people lives every single day.
Yeah, the bottom line is they're scared. So when you have somebody who's scared, who's trying to like enforce their power or their dominance over something, and for some reason it doesn't go their way, their first reaction is to end it just because they're afraid. Well, they're afraid of what might happen to them, which I get it, but at the same time, like, you signed up for that job. Mm-hmm. When you decided that you wanted to be a police officer, you knew that you were going to be in dangerous situations.
Yeah.
You knew that if there's an emergency and somebody's breaking into a house and you're getting called on, you're going into
of being killed.
Yeah, well, it's a shitty thing to say, but at the same time, like, you signed up for that, and I think that we need to do more evaluations on like people who try to get that job, because we are giving them a lot of power.
Yeah.
We're giving them so much power.
They literally walk around in public with a gun and a taser and handcuffs on them. Like, that's a lot of fucking power.
It's a lot of fucking power. So if they have, like, these stereotypes and these prejudices, and they haven't addressed them, and they don't know where they're coming from, at that point, they are now putting me and a lot of people who look like me in danger.
So just like how we were talking about stereotypes that we have for black people and police officers, let's talk about stereotypes and prejudice that people put on police officers. Like how, regardless of what the situation is and how a cop is behaving, people will treat them with disrespect and just be aggressive right off the bat, just because they're like, oh, well, you're a cop and you're going to try to hurt me and you want to give me a ticket, you want to endanger my life, whatever, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen so many like of your videos on Facebook of like examples of this where the cop before shows the guy speeding, shows him doing a whole bunch of dumb shit.
Like his body cam.
Yeah, and then he like goes to like pull him over. He comes up to the glass, and the guy's like, he knocks on the glass like, hey, I need your license and registration. And they pull the window down 2 inches, and they like whisper outside the window like, I'm scared. And it's like, okay, at that point, you know you were doing something wrong, and
you know what that is.
Yeah, instead of just cooperating, you're trying to make it difficult. Oh, well, I'm a citizen, and I deserve to drive on the streets, and you guys are just pulling us over because you need to meet your quota, blah, blah, blah. That's never what I don't agree with that. If, like, at the same time, there's laws. There's laws that we all have to follow. It's a part of being an American. It's a part of being in the state. And somebody has to, enforce these laws, and they have a hard job. And I'll be the first one to say that they have a hard job to know that you are going to be going into a job where you're going to be putting yourself in danger, and you're going to be in dangerous situations, and you're doing it all just to help people that you don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can do that. Yeah. So, I mean, like, even though I've been put in a lot of scary situations, or I might be, like, fearful of cops, I know that their job is not easy, and that when you're in a high-pressure situation and you're forced to make a like life-changing decision, life-changing for them and for the other person, sometimes you make the wrong one, and
and shitty. Even just like on a lesser scale, when it's like something that's not even as serious as like a call where that person's life might be put in danger, it's just like a cop, like as you said, can approach you with the utmost respect, and I've seen people just like basically like spit on their shoes, like just because like there's a lot of bad cops in the world doesn't mean there's gonna be every cop is going to be a bad cop. And like I think a lot of people, because of everything that's happened with like police brutality, now see cops and they're automatically like, oh, fuck that guy, fuck that pig, like blah blah blah, like I don't respect you. And it's just like, dude, like he could save your life one day, you know what I mean? Like, or he can make your life a lot easier when he catches you doing something bad and he lets you off just because you were not an asshole to him, you know? Like, even though cops have done a lot of bad shit, like, we just have still have to respect people at the end of the day and realize that, like, underneath that uniform, they are a person, and the way that you treat people is going to be the way they treat you. And if you come up to a cop and you act like a fucking dick, why would he not act like a dick back to you? It's just like if you came up to someone and spat in their face, would you not expect them to punch you? You know?
Yeah,
They're still people.
With me, like, personally sitting here and, like, preaching about, like, you know, black people this, black people that, I'm like, at the same time, I don't want, like, you can't look at all cops as the same, because it would be the same thing as them looking at us and saying all black people are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So they could have had a bad experience where with a black individual and shit just went sideways and they have a sour taste in their mouth and now they're afraid. But if they take that experience and they apply that to all the black people that they ever encounter on their job, then we're fucked. So I can't sit here and be like, all cops are shit, and I want them to, like, give me respect, and I'm not doing the same thing.
Yeah. No,
so it's just a mutual respect thing at the end of the day. And, like, if we understand that we have these stereotypes and we allow them to not become prejudiced, then I think that's where we should be, like, working towards. That should be our goal.
Yeah, we're, like, bridging the gap and the issues that we have between, like, cops and just, like, civilians, you know? And, like, yeah, it's a definitely a touchy subject, and I feel like once we bring more awareness to things like that, then is when people can open the conversation up and tell them how, like, be more honest about their feelings towards cops and the issues that they have surrounding them, or, like, black people, and then we can have an open conversation, and then that's how we move towards the future, towards progression, where we aren't looking at black people being like, oh, well, he's just gonna steal my shit and be ghetto.
Yeah, there's this really dope YouTube channel. They're called Jubilee, and they do this thing called Middle Ground. And one of the Middle Ground episodes were cops and inmates. So during the episode, they're, like, asking questions like, do you think all cops think the same? Do you think all inmates think the same? Do you think you were arrested under a justified reason? Blah, blah, blah. And the whole point of the middle ground is that if you agree with it, you go and you sit down into the chair and then they talk. And then the people who disagree come and they sit down into the chair and they join the conversation. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what the whole entire episode was about, but I think that they're doing, like, Jubilee in general is doing really important work, because they are going and they're bringing in these people who are working in these jobs or live in these lifestyles that have very difficult, you know, topics that need to be addressed. And instead of shying away from it, they're giving the people the platform to talk about it. So if you haven't checked it out, it is Jubilee on YouTube. Super dope. The series is called Middle Ground. Love it, love it, love it. 10 out of 10. Recommend.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like, the whole point of us even bringing up these topics with our get to the fucking points is to start a conversation and to help people to understand different perspectives, and just to start a conversation that leads towards progression and people understanding each other better and being able to be more honest with their feelings and their opinions and their views, and somehow coming together and just being whole.
Yeah, we never want you guys to feel like we're, like, preaching at you or whatever. Like, we both have our standpoints and our opinions on situations, and we know that there are people out there who feel differently. So we always encourage you guys to, like, comment or, like, you know, DM us, like, tell us your opinions and allow us to see that, because, like I said before, in order to get the whole entire image, you need to know everything that's going on.
Exactly. So there might be things that maybe we're not saying and we're not understanding, and you feel like, I wish that I could tell them this. Well, you can, and we are very open to
Literally.
it. Of course,
we are listening.
Yeah, so
we're gonna go ahead and flip this over, because I know we were talking about, like, me being a black guy and black issues, but at the same time, I'm like, I think that there are. This is gonna sound stupid, because it's like there are white people who also face prejudice. So an example of this on my end would be that all white people, like, hate black people. That's not the case 100%. Like, most of my friends are super dope, chill white people, and even though, like, how do I explain it? Like, I get the idea. The idea is because you guys are separate and because you guys are different, that you guys don't have a common ground, you guys don't have a common meeting point. But I think it just takes two individuals from different backgrounds coming together to realize, oh, he is just as cool as me, we chill, like, you know, like, I'll be the first one to say, all white people don't hate black people, and I'm a perfect example.
Yeah, and with that, I feel like that's why a lot of times when you see cliques of people, it's a lot of white people together and a lot of black people together, and then whenever they come together, it's like, oh wow, people look at it, because people have like a premeditated idea in their head behind like, oh, I need to stick with my people, I need to stick with my race, and black people might think, oh, like these white people don't want to hang out with me, and then white people might think, oh, these black people don't want to hang out with me, when it's like we can intermingle through races. It doesn't matter, and like we have to get away from the idea of thinking that just because someone is white, they're going to feel a certain way about me, and just because someone is black, they're going to feel a certain way about me, because that's not how it is at all. Because like with our friends group, there's so many different types of brown people, and we all get along, and it probably looks weird to other people when you see the group and it doesn't make sense, quote unquote, but once you get to know everyone's personalities, like we are all the same. And I think that's why that people might say to Robert, oh, you talk white, because he hangs out with a lot of like white people, but it's like, it's not even about the fact that he hangs out with white people. He talks that way when he's around black people. Exactly. It is not about the race that he's hanging out with. And I think that that's why some people might point that out, is because you have white friends.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we recently, before the whole nursing school and all that shit, we went on a trip to Amsterdam. And during Amsterdam, we took a group photo. And I've had so many people come up to me and be like, wow, I did not expect those people that you were with to be the people that you went to Amsterdam with. And I'm like, everybody
was brown.
Yeah, everybody was either black or brown, and everybody was just shook to their core. Like, I did not expect that. And I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know. I just, you hang out with like white people, so I thought that that's the people who were going to be there. And I'm like,
especially going to Europe, I feel like black people, like, people have a stereotype that black people only go to like tropical places or Miami,
or black people don't travel at all.
Yeah, or they don't travel.
So the fact that like, yeah, it was like in the group picture, it was just a whole bunch of black of us, and we were all
and there was like 10 of us.
Yeah, we're all just chilling, and everybody's like, oh shit, like, wow, these are, I never met those side of your face.
Black people, awesome.
Literally. So I'm like, it's just that we all, like, I get that when you see something, you judge it by the cover. You judge the book by the cover. It's a natural human response. Yeah. So if you are able to realize that and understand that, and then, you know, make sure
break that cycle.
Yeah, you work against that, then I think we'll all be out for the better.
Yeah, because I think it was funny when people started to point that out, because I was like, it was a row of 10 brown people in a land full of white people. It was fantastic. We were stared at a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, it's so funny because it's not just us that do this. It's not just Americans. We can give examples of there. We were like speaking and we were talking just the way we're talking now. And instead of, oh, you're talking white, over there it's like, wow, you're really American. And it's funny because it's everywhere. Everywhere there's a stereotype and there's a prejudice, and people have an idea of how somebody should be. And we were on a bus, and once again we were talking, having a conversation.
Well, they were saying that we sound like reality.
Yeah, they said
because
that.
They didn't think Americans sounded like how they do on TV.
Yeah.
They thought that was just reality show. So when we were speaking, they're like, wow, you guys sound like you're in a reality show. Like, that's how you guys actually speak. I'm like, oh shit.
Our friend Brittany and our friend Alicia, they said they sounded like Kardashians.
I'm like, and it's funny because when you hear Alicia and I against the Kardashians, of course there's similarities because we're all from America, but we do not sound like the Kardashians. So I was like, okay, thanks. I'm like, I don't know how to take that, but I'm gonna run with it.
It's just like whenever you're in a space where you aren't like other people, you're going to be judged, and you should never feel like you need to like change yourself or like, you know, morph into something else that you're not just because you feel like you want to fit into that space.
Yeah, don't become what people think that you should be. We don't want people who are all the same. Yeah, we really don't. Sure.
It's okay to be like different, and I think once you like learn to like love the skin that you're in, I'm talking to like black people, just because I get it. Like once you learn to like understand that black is beautiful and that you are, you know, beautiful, just because you're different doesn't mean that you're not equal, and like
just because you don't fit like the common standard of beauty doesn't make you not beautiful.
Yeah, like the whole 2C hair, and you're like not mixed and you're not exotic, like you're still,
you don't got blue eyes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just fucking rock your own shit. I mean, you only got one life to live. If you're gonna sit here and worry about what everybody else is thinking, that sounds like a shitty life. You're gonna be really
stressed out for your entire life.
Sounds like a really fucking shitty life to live, and I'm not. You
Not
can
about it.
Count me out.
Alright, let's talk about the stereotype that a lot of people have towards white people, which is what a Trump supporter looks like.
Yeah,
which is
sure.
like, it's like kind of like a little bit funny to me, because I think that when a lot of people think of a Trump supporter, they see a white man or woman, usually with some khakis, playing golf, wearing Sperry's or some sort of other Caucasian shoe, and wearing a polo, whatever, that look. And it really fucking sucks because we have a really good friend who dresses just like that and plays golf and has a nice house, like the typical American guy, and he is so liberal. And I know that when people see him, especially black people, they're probably like, oh, look at that Trump supporter, when he's like literally the farthest thing from it.
Yeah, it's so weird because like his lifestyle is different than ours by a lot because he got money and he has a house and shit. And you would think that like, because it's like that, he would put himself like above us or feel like he's above, and he's the total opposite. And it's like
the total opposite.
He also deals with stereotype and prejudice at the same time, because whenever we're in our friend group, there's always like a running joke that like, oh, he got the bill, oh, he's gonna pay for this, oh, he's gonna pay for that, he's gonna pay for this. And it's like, I try not to do it because we've had like a heart-on-heart conversation, and he's told me before, like, he doesn't like it when people point out the money that he makes. Because he's like, if I'm not doing that, I'm not rubbing it inside your guys' faces, I don't understand why it's somebody else's business to put my business out there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at that point, that is something that is hurting his feelings, and it's a stereotype that's becoming a prejudice because it now affects him and how he wants to act around people. So it's like, no matter what lifestyle you live, what lifestyle you walk, there's stereotypes and prejudices that you have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's
even
just...
if it's like on a lesser scale, like, oh, people assume that you have money, like, oh, wow, what a terrible problem.
Yeah, I just think that it's so much easier to be like, oh, well, if you're rich and you're famous or whatever, then you don't have any problems. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like we said before, do your own goddamn thing, live your best life.
Yeah, live your best life. Stop judging everyone for what they wear. Judge them by their actions, as cheesy as that is.
Yeah, if somebody's shitty, then you can judge them. But I mean, at least give them the opportunity to show you who they are as a person, because it's so much easier to like look at Brittany and be like, oh, she's just so beautiful, she's pretty. But at the same time, she could be a bitch. And it's so easy to look at me and be like...
Or they look at me, and since I have resting bitch face, they're like, oh, she's a fucking stuck-up bitch.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
for
okay.
Sure. I mean, her face do look stink sometimes.
Stink is like... I'm like, don't talk to me! Alright guys, so that wraps up episode 9. Thank you so much for joining us on this little journey that we have. Of course, we definitely want to keep this conversation going. Please email us, slide in our DMs, do whatever, like, comment, subscribe. You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram at @theofficial_RNB. And you can email us if that's what you like at officialrnbpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. We are most active on Instagram for sure. My personal Instagram is Rob Bates, ROBBATESS.
And my personal Instagram is BRVTT. Please give us a follow, give us a subscription, subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and shout out my friend Bryn. Bryn, thank you so much. She told me that she was driving with one of her friends and told everybody in the car, there was 6 of them, that
that's so
that
sweet.
She has a cool podcast, and I've seen her do it, word of mouth right in front of me. So word of mouth really works, people. If you have friends that listen to podcasts and they're not listening to ours, shout us out.
Shout us out. We totally appreciate everyone that even just brings our name up, and it's happened so much in the past few weeks. So yeah, thank you to everyone so much. Make sure you guys go on to Apple Podcasts, give us a review, give us a 5 stars. It really helps us out.
It helps us out a bunch. You guys have no idea. But until next week.
See you later.
Bye.